Oh, what's up? Yeah, it's Triple B, Base Boxing Basement in the house. Please at least like the channel because it keeps those vile, hateful, jealous, disgusting haters away. But yeah, I wanted to talk about something called BKFC. Now that stands for, I think, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. And it's partially owned by Conor McGrapist, and it's growing. People are watching it. Why? Because it's exciting. Because it's violent. You know, like it seems like 90% of the fights. Yeah, I haven't put it into an Excel spreadsheet. But it seems like 90% of the fights end up with someone getting KO'd. And it's usually in round two, weirdly, round two. It's only 5 2-minute rounds. Okay, so 10 minutes of fighting plus 4 minutes of rest. But, you know, these shows are exciting. They're violent. They're vicious. You know, you find out who the tough guys are. You find out who the tough guys are. I love boxing, and my background's in boxing. But when you put anyone, it's mainly ex-MMA, like UFC fighters and street fighters and ex-pro boxers who are past it. Well, and that's fine, but, you know, fighting. But I'm quite shocked by some of the results. And there was a big fight in Birmingham, England, as David Greenblatt would say. And there was 3 pro fighters on the bill. 3 ex-pro fighters on the bill. Yeah? And they're not like ancient. They're not young. They're past it. But, you know, we're not talking about bums. We're talking about quality fighters. We're talking about fighters that have fought for the world title. You know, we're talking about prospects. We're talking about ex-world amateur champions fighting bare knuckle. And it's a round ring, right? It's not, there's no corners. It's just a round ring. And these kind of fights, they obviously they got a lot of fights because the maximum it will go is let me think, 5 2-minute rounds is 10 minutes plus 4. At least, you know, it's only about 15 minutes per fight if it goes a distance. You know, so you've got to have a lot of fights. But let me tell you, man, I was sitting there bored. You know. I watched some whack UFC fights. I watched some boring pro boxing fights. And what's going on in pro boxing? What's going on in pro boxing? Nothing. It's whack. Give me a good fight that's coming up in pro boxing. Usyk Dubum 2? I mean, Usyk smoked Dubum. He quit. I actually think it is quite an interesting fight. Just because Dubum has lifted his game. He suddenly seems to have developed heart, stamina. He always had power. His head has changed shape, though, by the way, which usually, you know, like Holyfield, and which makes you think, maybe you're on the HDH. You know, why is your head a different shape now? And Usyk's obviously 38. So, you know, at some stage, age gets to us. When you're at 38, you're not at your peak. You're not a 32-year-old fighter no more. You're not a 30-year-old. You're not a 28-year-old fighter. And Usyk absolutely waxed Dubum in the first fight. Forgetting you know, a few people say, he got hit. He pretended to get hit low. It was definitely a low shot. And even Dubum knew it. Because if you watch his body language, He knows what he's done. He knows he's gone low. And apart from that, he got beaten up and he quit. I'm not going to say like a pussy hole, but, you know, you could do. And it wasn't the first time he quit. He quit against Joe Joyce. Kevin Arena battered him. He dropped him 3 times in 1 round and then never followed up. It's very suspicious. So we've got this big fight. It's the only fight I can think of. What else is interesting? Usyk, Dubum, Wembley fight. Massive paydays. Apparently Usyk's getting 100 mil. Dubum's getting 70 mil. I mean, you know, I get beaten up. You know, I'd get beaten up in Oscar's kitchen with the kitchen utensils for 100 mil. I wouldn't be proud of myself, and I'd make sure it wasn't filmed. But if I had to, you know, that's life-changing money. And they could beat my ass with, well, actually, you know what? Because Oscar's a bottom anyway, so it wouldn't be him beating my ass with an air fryer. It'd be the other way around. You know, having to put kitchen utensils up Oscar de la Olmo's batihole while he's wearing women's underwear, a wig, and while he's squealing, ooh, put it further. No, that's not big enough. Make sure you get a bigger, I want a bigger whisk. Actually, you know what? I'm not that degenerate. I wouldn't do that even for 100 mil. But, you know, for boxing, for sure. So there's not much happening in pro boxing. It's whack. And I watched the Bareknuckle show at the weekend. It's on the Gay Zone. And there were 3 pro boxers fighting. All of them of a decent level. Right? Ryan Aston. Now, he wasn't amazing or anything, but his record is 21, 6, and 2 draws. In fact, both his draws were against the well-known Battyman and nonce Tyne Booth. He actually had 2 draws against Tyne Booth. Can you believe that? I mean, that tells you got to be pretty whack, because Tyne Booth is a bum. But, you know, he was good enough to have a winning record. What happened? He got ironed out, flattened. Okay? And then, on the same show, right, on the same bare-knuckle boxing show, they had Jamie Cox. Now, Jamie Cox, you know, was a serious prospect in pro boxing at one time. He's got 25 wins and 2 losses. He lost to John Ryder, ex-world champion, George Groves, ex-world champion. Yeah, he didn't beat anyone great, but he was a prospect. I think his best win was against his girlfriend. I think he gave his girlfriend a damn good hiding. But he won on stoppage against his girlfriend by beating her up. Yeah, and this guy, you know, he's not young, but he's no, you know, he's no old man. And he got a hiding. You know, weirdly, just so you know, this is bizarre. This is the weird thing. Jamie Cox's name is not Jamie Cox. It's James Russin. James Russin, not Jamie Cox. Anyway, it doesn't matter, man, because he got absolutely waxed. He got beaten up. He quit. Yeah. And he didn't take many shots, and he quit. You're talking about an ex-pro boxer here. You know, and you think, well, who's going to be the best at bare-knuckle? Well, ex-pro boxers, obviously. Pro boxers are obviously going to be the best. And he got absolutely waxed. He quit. Yeah, I think he took the full count on his knees. Now, I'm not going to disrespect anyone who does bare knuckle, because to me, bare knuckle is the toughest. I don't mean in terms of the best martial art. That's got to be MMA. But in terms of the toughest, pure toughness, taking bare knuckle punches, completely bare knuckle punches to your face all night and getting cut up and smashed. Yeah, it's definitely the toughest guys compete in bare knuckle. But Jamie Cox, or as I should say, Jamie Russin, got battered and quit. And you would just never imagine it. And who was he fighting? A nobody. A nobody. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a nobody who had one win on points, 2 losses, both by KO. And this guy beat up, made him quit a fighter who was at one stage regarded as a serious British prospect. And then you got, it gets worse. This is the same show. It gets worse. So, on the show as well was Fun Time Frankie Gavin. I don't mind his nickname, but it tends to say, I don't take this seriously. This guy is ex-world amateur champion, ex-Olympian, ex-world championship contender. Yeah, he fought, who's that batty man? Kell Brook. He fought Kell Brook, you know? And he's beaten loads of decent guys. And still, he went into bare knuckle, and look, he looked chubby. My problem with Frankie Gavin is that I've seen Frankie Gavin spar, and he was one of the most impressive sparring exhibitions I've seen. He had footwork, you know. He was on his toes, he had footwork, he had accuracy. He didn't have much power, but his body was always skinny. He looked like a 15-year-old brown head. And but I don't know why he didn't do the PEDs. I'm assuming he didn't. Or if he did, he needs to get a new doctor, because he was always skinny. He had that sort of a body, right, that has no muscle tone, you know, narrow shoulders, too much flab. It always freaked me out a bit, because I was like, come on, man. This is your chance to make some big money. But yeah, Frankie Gavin, like I said, he had a reasonable pro career. He's beaten some decent guys. Bradley Skeet, okay. Who else did he beat? Bradley Skeet, Denton Vassell, Bradley Price, David Barnes, Junior Up the Witter, Curtis Woodlouse, he's whack. Michael Lomax, Young Muttley, even Peter McDonough. So he fought top guys and beat them in style. Yeah, I mean, he lost the big fights. Kell Brook, Sam Eggington, Karaman Leharaga. But you're still talking about an ex-world champion. Amateur, admittedly, and Olympian. And you'd think, well, he's got to win, man. And when he was shaping up, coming in the ring, I thought, well, yeah, he looks a bit, chunky. He looks a bit untrained. And a lot of people have said to me, the problem with Gavin was he had all the talent in the world, but he just couldn't be bothered to train properly. I mean, it's nuts, isn't it? Imagine having all the talent in the world and having the possibility of making millions of pounds and still being too lazy to train properly. But, and like I said, I seen him spar in reality. The footwork, the accuracy, you know, the timing was just super, super. You know, everyone was just watching, right? Anyway, so he fought a guy in bare knuckle boxing, right? Now, this guy, I've never heard of, man. A lot of bare knuckle guys are street fighters, ex-MMA guys, old pro boxers. This guy's called Jack Dugdale. Never heard of him. He's a pure bare knuckle fighter. He's got 3 wins, 3 KOs. Yeah, that's not bad. 1 win. So, 1 loss by KO. But he absolutely flattened Frankie Gavin. And it was a bit suspicious, actually. I watched the fight. I watched the entire show, and when he gets hit, I can't even see a shot land. Did he quit? Was it, you know, some kind of betting scam? I don't know. But in one way or another, he got ironed out in 50 seconds by a street fighter. Yeah? It's nuts to me how all these pro fighters, ex-pro fighters, who fought at a decent level, and, well, some of them at world level, like Gavin, were all flattened by a bunch of street fighters that aren't even that good. You know, why I must be, obviously it's a slightly different game. Being hit knuckle on face, you know, is a lot more hurtful than with a glove. There's a lot less skill in bare knuckle, but there's a lot more toughness. So these 3 pussy holes, you know, and Jamie Cox quit. Frankie Gavin got ironed out in the round. The other guy, Aston, also got smashed. It's a shock to me. I would have put on my money on them winning every single fight. Is the future bare knuckle fighting championship? I don't think so. It'll be a sideshow because firstly, right, to get any real stars in your sport, you need to pay them money. You know, the biggest stars in BKFC are like Matt Perry, Ben Rothwell, people like that. They can fight, believe that, but they're not boxers. You know, Matt Perry got knocked out by bloody Jake Paul. But they're tough guys. You know, I think bare knuckles is about toughness. The rules are slightly different. You can hold and hit. And obviously you've got no gloves. You got no gloves. You know, it feels very different when someone's punching you in the eye or the nose, right, with a completely bare knuckle. So, but I was just shocked to see ex-pro boxers of a good quality all get flattened, yeah, and one even quit. Jamie Cox. Yeah, it's shocking to me, but it's a good sport. Will it get huge? Like I said, in order to get big, you need to. Firstly, it will never appear. It will never appear in the sports section. UFC does not even appear in the sports section of major boxing. Of major news outlets. You know. They might appear in the front pages if something weird happens, but they're not going to be talking about this week in, week out like they will about pro boxing. And to be honest, pro boxing is whack at the moment. Like I said, it's boring. Conor McGregor is a large shareholder in BKFC. Now that's interesting because that brings PR. As long as Conor, manages not to grape any women, then, it's great for PR. It's great for PR. But they need some stars because at the moment it's has-beens or never was this. Street fighters or guys that have retired from pro boxing or UFC. So, but potentially, man, I enjoyed that show. I watched the whole show, not like every second of it. I watched the show and I was like, 90% of people get flattened. It's a test of character. It's a test of heart. It's a test of punching power. And I got to be honest, man. I look forward to the next show. Kenzie Morrison, Tommy the Duke Morrison's son, he's fighting too. He knocked out some bar brawler in like 15 seconds. But they're getting better people. But I think to get really big, and it will never get as big as boxing because they won't be in the sports pages. Just like UFC ain't in the sports pages. But to get big, they need some younger, fresher, bigger names, some bad boys. And that means, you got to give them a good payday. You got to give them a good payday, Apparently Mike Perry earned £500,000 or dollars for a fight, which is pretty good for a completely punch-drunk, street fighting UFC fighter who got dropped by Dana White. So there's some money there, but to really attract the top talent, apparently Paulie Malignaggi, that's another one. He got beaten up by Artem Lobov, who's Conor McGregor's boyfriend. So there are some names, but you need some big names. If Conor McGregor, for example, or some big UFC fighter, I don't know, who knows? How big do they have to be? Alex Pereira, Adesanya, someone like that. Conor McGregor, if they fought in Bareknuckle, then we're talking big money. We're talking big money, and we're talking eyes. We're talking visuals. We're talking excitement. It won't appear in the sports pages, but it will appear in the front pages because of the violence. Because of the violence. I never thought in my life that they would do bare knuckle fighting legitimately, as a sport. But given how whack pro boxing is at the moment, like I said, I might do lawn bowls, watch darts. I like a bit of UFC, but I don't really like the rolling around on the floor naked with someone else's nut sack and batehole on top of their nose. I mean, that ain't... we don't do that in the hood, as Bernard Hopkins said, which is ironic because he was one of the biggest huggers in boxing. But, I can see BKFC taking off. I think the best route forward, right, what would really make it explode is Conor McGregor getting in for a bare knuckle fight. Would it happen? I don't know, man. Conor is just on the yayo all the time, and he's got so much money. Can he be bothered to get into a bare knuckle fight, which might ruin his legacy? I don't know, man. But if he chooses right, like some bum like Paul Malignaggi, with his feather fists, his weak hands. You know, he would. Connor's actually a real good boxer. Would batter someone like Paul Malignaggi in Bareknuckle. So yeah, it could happen. But keep your eye on it. I'm telling you, it's entertaining. Believe that. Peace of the Middle East.